welcome to Power Nickel's live digital roadshow hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker for today, their CEO, President, and Director, Terry Lynch, who's going to be walking us through a company presentation, and after, we're going to be going into a live Q&A session. So just as a reminder, if you want to participate today, please feel free to submit any questions that you might have to the chat found on the right-hand side of your screen at any time. And later on in today's session, I'm going to be posting a survey link in the chat. If you want to get in touch with the Power Nickel team, please feel free to fill out that survey, answer a few questions, and indicate your interest. As always, this event is being recorded and it's going to be available on Six.com in the coming days, so look out for that if you need a reminder. But without further ado, Terry, I want to pass things over to you so we can get started.
All right, Ken. Sounds like the right thing to do. Get going here first thing in the morning. So we're going to talk to you about Power Nickel and our amazing NISC mine or development project in Nemaska, Quebec. We are sort of featuring it as the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. You'll see why as we get into the presentation. As always, we're not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true. However, in life and in mining in small caps, it's always good to do your own due diligence, and we recommend you do so. Why invest now? It's interesting. I think it's where we need to spend a bit of time because generally speaking, I think there's a lot of money on the sidelines. A lot of people got, scared, and properly so, I think, by the regional banking crisis. And as a result, a lot of people have been out of the market, and then they've watched the very narrow band of big cap tech rip like crazy. And if you weren't there, you really haven't missed much because the overall market has really not done much of anything, and perhaps down a little bit. Certainly, junior mining has been down. So there's been a miss. There's a slide here. I'll just jump to this for a second. And you look at that chart. That was the TSXV as of June 22nd. Here it is a week later or so. That red dot hasn't moved up any. I don't think it's right around there. So, but when you look at that, it shows you a couple things. Do you think we're going lower? Honestly, it's never been lower in the history of time. So it's like, for sure we're at or near the bottom. That's like there's no reason to think we're going lower than this by looking at the historical chart of all time. So, especially in context with some of the other things I'll talk about. But it's likely, and I would argue very likely, that we're going to rip higher, and we're going to go back to these, at least to these levels up here, over 2,000, which would be a triple, but could easily go up here to over 3,000, which would be a five-bagger. I mean, that's where this is headed, if you believe, because this happened. These are the last two mining booms, by the way. So if you believe, and that's what this chart on the left shows you, is the commodity, the equity ratio is turned, and we're starting to get into a commodity market, okay? So that's going to be critical for the macro picture. So if you don't believe in that, probably, you're just going to keep your money on the sidelines. That's okay. They've earned their money. They can invest it how they like. But I'm telling you, what you have to do is, I would say, if you at least position size and start to enter this market now. It's never been better. It's never going to get better. Yet the timing is absolutely perfect. Summer, they say, sell in May and go away. Well, people have done that, but the smart money buys in June, okay, and the summer months, and then they sometimes they sell in December, that's it. I'm not a swing trader. Junior mining, my own personal belief is you got to find some core companies you really, really like. After you've done your due diligence, and you have whatever your position size, and right now mining should be at least 20% of your portfolio, and that sounds like a lot. I've got it more like 40%, and I believe mining over the next 10 years is going to radically outperform anything else in my portfolio. Okay, so I've got some big cap in there, but I got a lot of really high quality juniors like or nano cap miners like Power Nickel loading it up. And I'm convicted that these things will be going 10, 20, 30, 50 times. And there's nothing else, I'm not a tech. You look at where we're at, we're going 50 times from here. Maybe if you pick the right AI guy that started in his basement like yesterday or like a year ago, that would have been right. But those things are tough, and those are gambles. And junior mining is gambling too, but you've also got to think that if you look at the chart, we're as low as we've ever been. So the price is, you're not priced into it. Tech, heavily priced in. So the point would be, if you're on the sidelines with cash, good for you because you were smart. You've got cash, and now you can buy at these record low prices. But the message would be, whether it be Power Nickel or some other collection of junior mining assets, now's the time to at least put 25 to 50% of your allocation in. Personally, I would go all in, but that's me. But in any event, that's the message, because I feel like fundamentally that is the message every junior miner should be starting off the top with investors is, wherever you decide, get your money out of the banks, put it into something that's got radical room for growth. Now, why is this thing going to grow? Well, it's going to grow because governments fundamentally around the world have decided that they want to decarbonize. Okay, so they basically have committed trillions, really, to this exercise. So this is not just a graphic on a chart back there again, where the chart's turning up here. It's actual a real-time commitment. So there's in the battery metal space, which is where Power Nickel is, over $50 billion is already committed and turning in the ground on building battery plants that'll be completed in 27, 28 across North America. So those plants are going to need raw materials. Raw materials they don't have sourced yet. And raw materials like nickel, like lithium, like cobalt, like copper, graphite, etc. So any of those sectors, palladium, platinum, they're all going to do very well. Silver, I mean, these are all, really the battery metals. And, it's again, driven fundamentally by the designs of the government to inspire a decarbonization of our economy. In the U.S., it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, and they subsidize, both producers and consumers of electric vehicles. In particular, they subsidize them to basically purchase vehicles that have a certain content of North American free trade enabled supply. Okay, so obviously in a standard nickel battery in an electric vehicle, 60 kilograms of nickel. You won't be able to get to the 90% of North American supply by 2029, 2030, I think, if you don't have the nickel made for North America. So, features like that are going to be phenomenal, drivers for the desire of nickel from mines like Power Nickel. And then in Canada, I criticize our government a lot for many things they do, but I have to give them credit, federally for their battery metals policy. They've been spot on that. They've been promoting, exploration, and now on their last federal budget, up to a 30% tax credit to equip and build a mine. That's unheard of. That means like 30% of my funding for my mine is going to come from this federal tax credit. Quebec actually preceded it, and they've been doing an amazing job. We'll talk more of that in a second. But they've provided up to a 25% credit to build the mine. So if I'm going to build a very high-end nickel mine, say it's going to cost me $400 million US, more than half of it's going to come from credits from the federal and provincial governments. Credits I can turn into cash. So you would think when that announcement was made, the stocks in this sector that people perceive are going to be mine would have ripped up, right? That's a lot of free money. Okay, our market cap is 25 million. We're going to get 200 million. Well, the math on that is pretty spectacular, don't you think? So what happened? The stocks have come down. Ours is just a little bit, but others have come down 20%, 30%. Like if you look at Critical Minerals, which is a company we're very familiar with, a tremendous lithium project in Quebec. It's got a full feasibility study. They're about to make their deal and go into production. Man, the stocks come down. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're going to get like $500 million. That's more than their market cap. Anyway, the market has missed it because of the regional banking crisis. That all happened at the same time. So it's understandable because the fear was in the street, the people were on the sidelines. But the point would be the macro factors are amazing on this, investing in junior mining. And in particular, it's amazing investing in Power Nickel. And like this slide says, why invest now? The macro and the micro have aligned, okay? So let's switch over to the micro side, the why Power Nickel side. So on the top right, you see a chart. The chart I'll go into in more detail in the body of the show. But the short summary of this chart is it compares ourselves against other nickel sulfide mines, the best nickel sulfides mines in the world that are not yet developed, mines that have at least 1% nickel EQ or better. And basically, we're the cheapest by far. We're maybe somewhere between 5% to 20% of the value of these mines. And in my mind, will be every bit as good or perhaps better than any of them, which is my own bold claim, but I can back it up with assay results and by the size of our projects. So, there's no way we're going to be at 5%. I can guarantee you that, or 20%. So there's multiples going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. Why? Because we're going to be releasing our update at 43101, which is going to evidence that we're going to be commercial. And in mining, it's all about perceived commerciality. Like when the market perceives you're going to be commercial, you go from a 0 to a 1. Okay, so it's just like in the digital world, it's on ones and zeros. Well, it's somewhat like that in mining. In most exploration companies will never become a mine, and ultimately they're going to zero. But the ones that do, they become ones, and then they're worth hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of dollars. We're going to be one of those guys. So, and we've evidenced it with our drill results, okay? And we're going to evidence it more with the 43101, and we're going to evidence it more with people that are going to be investing in us. We'll see that shortly. And the other big thing about this investment opportunity is this is just a start, okay? We've already found this. This is what we found today, not what we're going to find tomorrow. And tomorrow looks super promising. Okay, this thing is going to be big. Okay, this is not going to be just a small nickel mine. It's going to be a big nickel mine. It's not going to be just nickel. It's going to be nickel and PGMs, okay, with copper and cobalt as well. So very lucrative multi-metallic project. So anyway, let's dive more into it. But that's the takeaway off the top. Where are we at in the world? Well, we're in Quebec. We're basically in about the middle of the province, but Quebec is a very big province, as you can see from the map, and it's considered northern Quebec from a financial perspective. So that means we're eligible for the most important incentives. So we get full incentive, max incentive here. So for example, the reason why I consider there's really three big reasons why Quebec is the top jurisdiction in the world to be looking for not precious metals, but critical metals right now. Arguably, it's the best for precious metals as well, but let's speak to the critical metal industry, which is what we're in. So first one is we're located off a major highway, Route North. It's a 4-lane highway, and basically we're just off you just can drive to our project right off that road. Across the street from us is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So obviously power is there. Nemaska is a small little town. We're about 8 kilometers from Nemaska. It has a regional airport. It has the Nemaska lithium plant. There's another 3 mines being built in the area, including critical elements, the East Main Gold Mine, etc., Galaxy. So what happens when an area has so many mines being built? What does that mean? Well, number one, it means that the community, in this case, the Cree community, and they're our Aboriginal partner, and the owners of the land, they basically are very pro-mining. And the reason why they're pro-mining is Quebec government's done a great job of partnering and educating with them so that they're a participant in the project, the royalty sharing. So it's a great lesson for the rest of Canada, really, and the rest of the world about how to work with Aboriginal partners, and they're to be commended for getting on this early and making it work. So we're really happy about that. The third reason, of course, other than the obviously the community risk being super low, the infrastructure being great, is the financial incentives. We talked about that at the outset. So just to refresh you, the incentives exist for exploration. So for example, we just closed around, I guess, about maybe 8 weeks ago now, where we raised $4.8 million at 50 cents a unit, which was a share and a half unit, half warrant at 50 cents, callable at $1. So when we announced that, the stock was 28 cents. So that's a pretty good trick, right? You raise money at 50 cents when the stock's at 28. How is that possible? Well, it was possible because of the enormous tax incentives that are available for critical mineral exploration in Quebec today, both federally and provincially. So what happens is we have a investment group, generally high tax-paying Quebecers, led by Quebec-based financial institutions that aggregate such investors in their practice. They came in at the front end. They invested at the 50 cents. And then we basically brought them investors in at 25 cents. So, at the end, the investor that put in the first money at 50 cents, they saw their tax rate go down from 54% to 42%, and they have no further risk. Hell of a deal for them. The investors that put the money in at 25 cents, they basically had put a quarter in and 50 cents is working for them. That's fantastic for investors. And the Quebec and provincial and federal governments had 4.8 million committed to critical mineral investing, which is what they wanted. So everyone sort of got what they wanted, and that makes an enormously attractive exploration regime. So we get 2-for-1 exploration dollars over anywhere else on Earth. So think about that. It's profound. And then we obviously talked at the outset about how in the building of the mine, should we be fortunate enough to actually put together enough tonnage and grade, half of that's going to come from the governments as well. So amazing packages. We talked at the outset about building the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. Why would we do that? Other than obviously it makes sense from an environmental perspective, and we're all pro-environment. The number one reason we do it is because it's going to be better for our shareholders. Because that's at the end of the day, we work for our shareholders and for our stakeholders. So we want to be a contributor to our society, but we also have to first, as a capitalist enterprise, deliver returns for our shareholders. How do we deliver returns with such gold? Well, it's because cleaner nickel will yield higher prices. Several people, several notable leaders in the space, believe higher clean nickel will get between $1,500 to $2,000 a ton more than dirty nickel. Okay, so that's almost today it's I don't know, close to 10%. So over the life of a project, that's huge. Now, would it cost us more than 10% to make this investment? No, probably not. Because when you do things from the design stage out front, it's actually not that expensive. It's expensive when you have to retrofit, but not when you're designing from scratch. So we've got a few things going for us, right? First thing we did, with our positioning was you got to walk the walk, right? So all of our drilling we offset with Carbonex, which is sort of the leader in the drilling offset business. They have a program called Drill Green, and basically increased our drilling cost by 25 cents a meter. And now we're drilling green. Okay, so every time we spend diesel to drill, which is how you drill in junior mining, that powers the drills. It's offset, so that there's somewhere a carbon offset has been bought through Verra certified credits and retired. Okay, so we're completely clean through the rest of this year, and we'll go through going forward as well. Second thing we've got in our favor is, of course, we're in Quebec. Hydro-Quebec is across the street. So green hydropower is going to power our mine, okay? And that's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be cheap, and it's going to be green, okay? The third thing I would say is we have an ultramafic deposit. An ultramafic deposit like Lynn Lake or Voisey's Bay. Lynn Lake was 20 million tons. Voisey's Bay was 50 million tons. We think we're going to have a big one too. And ultramafic deposits, by their nature, naturally sequester CO2. There's some tricks you can do before it goes out on the tailing pile that actually basically triples the CO2 thing. So that's going to be good. We're definitely going to use that. And then finally, we're going to, as we go forward, and we're already in discussions, we'll hear more about this later, about, hey, what would a plant look like here? Well, a plant, we suspect, would be, there's three ways to build nickel plants. Smelting, hydrometallurgy, and chemical metal vapor process. Okay, the last one is the most environmentally friendly, and we've certainly been talking with the leaders in that space, and we think that that's probably the way this project should be built. That would make it very easy to become, with obviously with care, to become the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine and get the higher nickel prices that we talked about. All the environmental aspirations aside, in mining, the most important thing is grade and tonnage. You got to have enough ore, and it has to be profitable for you to make it into a mine. Okay, so let's talk about that, because the first question you got to ask when you're looking at making a mining investment is it going to be a mine? Does it have realistically the potential to be a mine? And we're going to evidence, yeah, we really do, and we've given you tons of evidence to believe we do. So it starts with having 3.1 million tons of about 1.6% nickel EQ. That's what's on the screen in front of you. It's a historical resource, so we needed to confirm that it was there. Okay, we have no reason to believe it wasn't there. It was bought from a very esteemed company, Critical Elements, who was our partner, and they had got it from Monarch Resources, and they were another very good company here in Quebec. So we, every confidence in it. Nonetheless, we did these first 8 holes, 7 of the 8 hit, big intersections, confirming the grade and tonnage was there. So we knew we had something, okay? So that square we're looking in the middle area, that's what we call Nisk Main. That's about 1 square kilometer in size. So we started to lay out a program. The program basically was to do about 15,000 meters of drilling, which we've sort of completed. And we released, I think, 6 assays in total, or 5, I think maybe 6. And every assay hole has had a trophy result. So we had released a 43-101 following the result of this, and it had showed 4 million tons. Interesting fact, I didn't know it. Our QP based in Quebec did not know it either. If you're a reporting issuer from BC, which Power Nickel is, even though we're domiciled office-wise in Toronto and obviously our operations in Quebec, historically we were in BC. The BC reporting issuers, if you use 10-year-old metallurgical studies, you can't do that. So we had used that in our 43-101, so we had to pull it down, so we did. However, we know the rock is there, and we're updating the 43-101, and we'll be out probably by the end of September, and we're using a brand new metallurgical survey done by XPS, the world leader in that. So that'll be out, but this is important because this hole here in the middle, 2209, right in the center of your screen, cursor, it basically was 40 meters at 1.6% nickel EQ. That was the top 5 hole in nickel anywhere in the world last year. And you can see other 1% nickels on the screen. About 60% of our holes have hit 1% nickel. So this was about 150 meters down dip from the resource that we had modeled up to 4 million tons. So we know we're stepping out and adding significant tonnage. We followed that up with another set of results showing this particular hole, 10 meters of almost 3% nickel EQ, further 90 meters away from the 150 meter hole. Followed it up with basically this is 16 meters up here to the left of 1.6%. Down here, this was ultimately 14 meters of 1.5%, including 7.5 meters of 2.5%. So amazing results, really. And this is what, when we actually sort of, we'll show you this on another one on overhead, but this is if you took a side view of what we call the river of nickel. This is the first river of nickel in our mind. There could be many layers to this. This is sort of like a surface river. So it goes down to about 200 meters up to the surface and back down, okay? And you can see, this is an overhead view of it, how it's dispersed across this 1 kilometer section. These are the various holes. So pretty interesting, well dispersed. So you can see big intersections, big grades of nickel across the ore body. So that's what's given us the confidence to believe that right now we think when we update, we're going to get closer to that 8 million tons plus, and that will contain more than 100,000 contained tons of nickel, which will make us commercial, okay, in the market's eyes, okay? Great news. That's just a start, okay? This is Nisk Main. This is the area we've been working, okay? We've done some testing over here that looks very promising, and over here that looks very promising. And then we actually went up and tested this wildcat target up here. And wow, what do we find? 7.75 meters of almost 1 ounce, better than 1 ounce, better palladium and platinum, mostly platinum, okay, which is a battery metal. That's, $1,600 rock. That's a ridiculous rock. So it's when you think of it, it would maybe cost, I don't know, $70 a ton to process this. So if you get $1,600 rock, you're rocking. This was a full 5 kilometers away. Our exploration team did an amazing job to test that out and to find that discovery. We subsequently shot an EM that goes from the just left here, down here where this cursor is, all the way up to here, and it lit up very nicely. And so over our ore body here, it looks like it's a red, which is sort of a good indicator. But there's some purples on the screen too. Purple's what you want. Airborne EM is a very effective technique in an area where there's no graphic. Okay, it's good to about 150, 200 meters, so not good for the deeper stuff, but really good for this. But you can see when you get results like this is what you saw at Norilsk, and it's three big discoveries, and it's massive project. $1 trillion worth of nickel and copper and PGMs. It's what you see at Raglan. So that makes us very excited. We think this is all connected, that there's a connection between these ore bodies. Okay, these are all pods, and every single nickel sulfide mine in the history of time has been multiple pod. Right now, we got this one whopper pod down here that's accessible, but we think there's going to be 3, 4, 5 pods here, and maybe deep, they're all connected. And so I couldn't be more bullish on this project in terms of the actual geology and how it's working out. How we're going to find the extra pods and the deeper opportunities. We're using a lot of the conventional technologies, of course, airborne EM we just talked about, downhole EM we use as well, gravity, IP. Those are conventional tools that have been in the explorer's shed for some time. There's a new tool. It's called ambient noise tomography. And I don't know if I can blow this up. Let's see. Oh, yeah, a little bit. You can see that silver geode right there. That is what's called a geode. And it basically goes into a platform we put into the earth a little bit. And then it sends a sound pulse down 2,000 meters into the ground, comes back as a sound map, and is captured as a sound map. And basically, we do it first over our known areas. So, for example, over our, just to refresh your memory here. So this area over here, sometimes that cursor works, sometimes it doesn't. On the bottom left, where the NISC main is, you can see the density of drill holes there. So we go through all those drill holes, and it helps the system learn. So it correlates the massive sulfides, like, for example, where we had that 40-meter discovery of 1.6% nickel. That's going to correlate to a very specific sound map. Same for the 10 meters of 3%, et cetera, et cetera. So all of a sudden, we can help this ambient noise tomography system learn what is good sound maps, what they look like, where the massive sulfides are, and what are bad sound maps, okay? Ones we're not looking for. So once it learns, it knows that, hey, this sound map shows that type of rock. That's the rock we're looking for. Where are there more sound maps like that? That's as simple as it gets, really. So then it looks, north and south. So it looks down to 2,000 meters. So you may find out there's another level at 500 meters, another level at 800 meters, and so forth. Often in nickel mining, in the big ones, there's several stacks of nickel. So we're going to find that out. And then, of course, it goes up and down the spectrum. So we're going to first go up our, 7 kilometer or so ultramafic sequence, which we've mapped, and we're going to test there. We're going to run the airborne, the ambient noise tomography over that. And of course, where we get concentric circles, where we had, a great airborne EM, kicker, and then we got a very favorable sound map, well, obviously it'd be amongst the first spots you drill. So we think we're using really cutting edge, state-of-the-art technology. This has never been used for nickel in Canada before. It has been used where we found it was at Talon Metals in Michigan and Minnesota. So that's Talon over here, right here. You can see in the middle of the screen. And basically, Talon is one of our peers. Okay, so when I compare Power Nickel's current market cap with that of our peers, I compare us with the other high-grade nickel sulfides. Yeah, so I don't compare it to Giga Metals or Canada Nickel or stuff like that. They're obviously in the nickel business, but they're a different animal. They're a low-grade, multi-billion-dollar investment, low IRR returns. Hey, listen, good opportunities, and probably get at least one of them gets built in this cycle, I suspect. But I mean, completely different economics, so not a comparable for us at all. So that's why if I was doing my due diligence just as an investor, this would be the money page. This is where I decide, hey, do I invest in this company or not? You can see the market caps go from around, I guess, 92 million up to 600 million. Okay, and we're around 25. So I can tell you, we're not worth 1/4 to I guess even almost 1/25 of 4% to 20% of these guys. Yeah, the medium here, like Talon, for example, is 259, but that's 60%. So that deposit's worth over 400 million, and or something close to that. and we're worth 26, 30, whatever. We'll soon be. I guess the key question is, do you believe the drill assays? Well, you should, because they've been QA, QC certified. Like, there's no doubt those were actual drill assays. And when they update the 43101, the 43101 is going a lot further north. We can't say for sure until it's finally out, but we believe it's going to show that we're commercial, that we'll have 100,000 contained tons. Okay, so all of a sudden we're going to be commercial. And then you've seen that how we stepped out 5 kilometers. So in this next resource, that whole 5 kilometers out, that's not going to be in it. Okay, because it's not a resource out there yet. But obviously, are there going to be other discoveries along this project? Sure, looks like it, doesn't it? So all of a sudden, and I'm not saying sell this. If you own some of these names, good on you. I think you're into some good names. I think these names as a sector, nickel's not had a run, and they're all down massively. So I think they're all going to do well. I'm just saying, relatively speaking, if you were to look at this chart and you believe that we're going to 8 to 10 up here with grades that are improving, it's like maybe our grade's 20% less than talent, but we're trading at I don't know, 5%, 7% of their value. That's ridiculous. Okay, the market will not let that happen. So this thing is going to get re-rated. It's going to get re-rated soon. So when this 43, it can start re-rating at any moment. It can start today. It can start tomorrow. For sure, when that 43101 comes out in September, I would think at that point it's almost certain to be re-rated. So worst case is you may have to wait 3 months. Okay, best case is it's going to start to happen as people wake up, as we're really making a push now to get our message out, because we're pounding the table. They're saying, people, get off your wallets. If you've got cash in the bank, there's never been a better time in history to buy junior mining. There's never been a better time in history to buy power nickel. I mean, the charts are there, the information is there. Okay, we won't beat this to death, but clearly this is not just me waving hands. There's pretty serious data here that suggests that this is a very, very good deal. What are our action plans to make it even better? Well, we're going to, basically we'll start drilling again. Plan is for end of July. Obviously the fires are impacting things up in northern Quebec. God bless the firefighters, and we hope that they're successful, and that God's give us some rain. We could sure use that. We will be releasing our airborne EM sometime in July. We're just waiting for the final report. We've got obviously we're going to be using the ambient noise tomography, and we're going to be identifying our new set of targets that we've already permitted, and we'll be drilling on in starting at the hopefully end of July. It's fully funded. We raised the money back in a couple months ago, so we're good to drill going forward. We'll release our metallurgical study in Q3. Probably, I think, end of August, early September, probably after the September long weekend. That'll be incorporated into our 43101. And we talk about delivering a PEA or better by the end of Q2 next year. What do we mean by or better? Well, we're actually in discussions right now with a major nickel processing company. Many plants around the world making nickel, cobalt, and other products in the battery metal space. They're in fact the world's best provider of high-end nickel products. So nickel powders, anodes and wires. So we'd expect to do something with these folks sometime soon, and that'll be the next strategic money in this. And I think that's a another checkered flag for you as an investor is when smart money enters the field. It's maybe time to wake up. In addition to having, obviously, an unbelievably positioned nickel project in Quebec, we're also going to be doing a spin-off. We're finalizing the details on that. Some new stuff has come up lately. We had expected to have that news out by now, to be honest with you, but we've been looking at some new and better ways to do things. But it's imminent now. We just got some of the last piece of tax advice yesterday, so we're processing that, and we'll come back very soon on this. And basically, we've got 2 major land packages, one in British Columbia, one in Chile. In BC, this is us, the yellow section here. It basically is right at the start of the Golden Triangle. It's the mountaintop. It's called Mount Rainey. It overlooks the town of Stewart. For people unfamiliar with the Golden Triangle, one of the more prolific, geological formations on Earth. Has produced many, hundreds of millions of ounces of gold and silver, and also billions of pounds of copper already produced. Okay, so these are mines that have been up and running for many years, and there's several new mines about to be commissioned there that are in the process of being built. In fact, if you look on this map over here again, where I'm pointing my finger, I guess you can't see my finger. There's just if you see the yellow spot, which is us, the red is Scotty Resources, which, by the way, has as many 50-gram gold holes as Great Bear Resources did. Look that one up, multi-billion-dollar gold mine. Did a similar point in history. It's one of my favorite gold juniors. I like Scotty. I'm a shareholder. To the right of it is Ascot Resources. They're building a mine right there. And obviously, that happened after he bought this project. So this is very prospective ground. We'll talk more about Chile in a second. We had 3 half-ounce gold at surface on sampling. It's never been drilled, so we sort of our Scotty's got some great results right up here. Strike point just down below us. So very prospective ground. What might that be worth? We think that particular piece of ground is probably worth between $10 and $15 million. So initial plans are to spin that section off and raise another separately from our Power Nickel purse. $1.5 million or so on that. We think that it may be, how we would do this through a plan of arrangement. So you would get 25% as a shareholder, somewhere between, we think around $3 or $4 million worth of stock value out of the gate, and then every 3 years, once annually for the next 3 years, you get another 25%. So that's what we're thinking. Where are we in Chile? Chile's, amazing country, has been for, a long time, one of the best places to explore. It got shaky the last couple of years because of some political uncertainty down there. That's largely been eradicated because the constitutional event was defeated, and the ruling party, which has been sort of a bit more Venezuelan looking than Chilean looking historically, they've lost the Senate, so their ability to enact any radical changes has pretty much disappeared, and they're making more productive signs now. So we think the worst is over for Chile, and Chile has been a very good place to be in business for the last 30 years, and we think it's going to be great going forward. So we got some serious land packages in Chile. These are all several thousand hectares. The challenge is, if you look at that screen, you can see we're in the desert. Okay, so desert exploration is tough. One of the big things with desert exploration is there's sand in it called caliche, and the caliche basically restricts your ability to do IP and gravity, which are usually the regional tools of choice. But this ambient noise tomography that we're using up at NISC, it actually was pioneered in Australia by Fleet Space Technologies, who invented it, and they use it a lot in West Australia in the desert there, where there's caliche. So that this thing sees through caliche. Could be groundbreaking for Chile. So we think this will be amazing. And these packages will end up in that new ultimately PubCo. So that'll be exciting. Last asset to talk about, we've got a very substantial royalty. We're in the discussions with a couple of groups now to transact this royalty. We think it could yield somewhere around $5 million US or so. That would be a big number for us, obviously, given how while we think it's worth a lot more in the long run. It had like 100 million tons of ore grade copper. Teck can buy 1% back of the 3% for $3 million US, and the balance we would have to keep. But the point is, here we are at 25 million or so, valuation right now. It would basically radically reduce our dilution going forward. And if we believe NISC is going to be a multi-billion-dollar mine, which is what we think, then you certainly don't want to be diluting it or dilute it as little as possible. So selling this asset makes sense at this point. The team, we've kept good junior mining companies, especially nano-cap junior mining companies, keep a very lean team because money needs to go in the ground, not into admin. So we use Morelli, for example, to be our CFO. It's a contract CFO. We use a lot of contract geological services. So in Quebec, we use GeoVector, and Joe Campbell, Eric Herbert, Adam Finley, and the team They've been phenomenal. Has been shown by our drilling and exploration success. I mean, you couldn't buy this team, but you can rent them, and it's actually tax effective to do so. We use Apex in Vancouver, similarly a steam team out there to do the Golden Ivan project. In Chile, we operate because Jimena is a geologist, and she's very competent. And so it's more economic to do that down there. Our board, Greg McKenzie, ex-MD of Haywood, Peter, an ex-lawyer, and Les, a very successful businessman, been super supportive. Leads us to our cap structure table. The board owns about 4%. That's pretty good for boards these days. The key shareholders here, myself and my family, we've been the biggest investor in each of the last 2 rounds. Critical Elements and the Stern family, BT Global, and Palace Capital all have participated in the last round. And each last 2 rounds, 65-70% of the round has been done by this group. The group that our biggest group of shareholders, the guys that know this deal the best, are buying it the most. That should be a big checkered flag for you. So this looks very, very good. I always like to go where people are putting skin in the game. So our cap structure is as you see in front of you. Just to summarize before we get to questions, obviously we've made a major nickel sulfide discovery. Nickel sulfide is what they use for class 1 nickel, which is what powers electric vehicles. 2 things drive the nickel market. Basically stainless steel, which is 70% of the nickel market. That's basically urbanization. So as people move from villages in India and Southeast Asia and Africa and South America and into cities and towns, they're buying pots and pans, fridges and stoves. That's stainless steel, growing at 6% compound annual growth rate for the last number of years, not slowing down. So that's underpinning the nickel growth. And then the EVs. EVs today are about 10%. They're expected to get to 50% over the next few years. BHP just 2 weeks ago came out and said by 2030 we're going to need 4 times the amount of nickel that we've got. No chance we'll ever find that. But you can see class 1 nickel, especially class 1 nickel in North America, it's going to be a phenomenal spot to be, and we've got a major discovery there. So with evidence of the discovery, you've seen the assays, you've seen the 43-101s. We're trading at a serious discount to our peer group. You want to enter these deals buying the best spot you can in the sector that you like. Buy something at a massive discount. We're trading at a massive discount. That will change when the 43-101 possibly sooner goes out. We'll keep on releasing drill results and news, such as the airborne EM, such as the fleet deployment, such as additional, perhaps the spin out, of course, the metallurgical study, the updated 43-1, the drilling starting, drilling assays coming out. So this is going to be super news friendly for the next couple of years, really. Every month there's going to be, I think, significant news, and not just made up news, but actual stuff that means that value is being created for you, the shareholders. We're fully funded. We've raised the money. We're going to be drilling starting at the end of July. At this point, we think we're going to find new pods. We think these new pods are going to move us up into the Lynn Lake, which is 22 million tons, the Voices Bay, which is 50 million tons. It's going to move us into that category, which will make this $1 billion type of project. We're in the battery metal space. I don't think you could be in a better spot for mining. You got nickel, you got PGMs, you got the copper and cobalt. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. And then we've got the spinouts. Spinouts are just we used to trade at our current market cap before we had NISC. So back when there was actually a pulse in the mining market a couple of years back, maybe in 2019, I guess it was 2020, 2021, we were trading at these levels. So that's what those ultimately will be worth as well. Because I think the copper gold exploration market is probably coming this fall. So that will be the time to sort of tap into that. The leadership team has obviously done a good job of navigating us to this point. We're well connected. And then finally, we're in the best place in the world. Quebec is clearly the best spot to be looking for critical minerals because of the ability that they've done in terms of putting in infrastructure. So it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg to make this thing commercial. Second, they've done a great job of discussing and working with the native people, in this case, the Cree, our partner. And then third, obviously, the amazing collection of tax credits and tax incentives to both explore. Remember, we raised money at 50 cents when the price was 28. That's amazing. Okay, and now with the recent budgets, up to 50% of our mine costs. A $400 million mine, $200 million of that's going to come from the government. Think about that. Profoundly impacting our economic viability and your returns. So that's it. That's the top 10 reasons why to invest in Power Nickel today. And as I said at the outset, many of you are holding on to your cash, and wisely so. But now I'm telling you, for junior mining, now's the time to start to allocate some of that position. Whether you put it in Power Nickel or not, be wise and listen to me. You'll be thanking me later. Kim, now over to you for some questions.
Absolutely, Terry. Yeah, thanks for the great presentation. And just as a reminder to everyone in the audience, if you have any questions, now's the time. Please submit them in the chat found on the right-hand side of your screen. To get started, Terry, the first question is if you could just review the infrastructure situation.
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to that slide. So this is where we're at. NISC is up here. White cursor somehow appears in these ones. So this is route north. So we're literally right off the road, and you can drive to it. Okay, that's a 4-lane road, and and so forth. 8 kilometers from Nemaska, which has got it's a small regional town, has an airport. So actually, I'll be flying in there. I was going to fly in there last weekend with a mining magazine and wanted to do a cover story on NISC, but because of the fires, we had to shift it to September 1st. So Labor Day weekend, Papa T will be up here, not hanging out with his family, but that's okay. We'll get it done. And the Nemaska's got normal supplies. Our drillers. I mean, I've drilled in Chile before, where I'm hanging on the side of a cliff at 4,000 meters and barely able to breathe. And these guys, they stop drilling in the day. They go and they stay in a beautiful Cree resort hotel that was built for the fishing and the vacationing up there in the summertime, and it's fantastic. So it's pretty amazing. We think we're infrastructure wise, it's about as good as it gets. So Hydro-Quebec's across the street, of course. So yeah, that's the infrastructure for NIST.
Absolutely great. Thanks, Terry. There's just another question, and it leads quite nicely into your answer there and where we got started. But just wondering about community relations and if you can elaborate or talk further about them.
Yeah, so we've had good relationships with our Cree partners, and then as I said, we give them a ton of business, at their wherever we can, hire Cree people to do work for us. As we build this place. Will be a very and the Cree, to their credit, they want to. Mining pays a lot. Okay, it's pretty much the top paying job is a mining job, and I don't know if you know this, but 10% of the workforce in mining is Aboriginal, and it's probably going to grow. So the elders are smart. They recognize, hey, we want to keep our young people in our community. They need to have meaningful, bountiful employment. Well, mining would be a great spot for it. So we intend to be a full partner with our Aboriginal partners, and to help them achieve their objectives as they help us mine the earth, Mother Earth, for the fine metals that we need to power the green transition. And it'll all be done in a very respectful, environmental way. We're very proactive that way. We want to be the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. So this will be an amazing project when it's all said and done. So we've got good relationships with the Cree, and we tend to focus on maintaining them and making sure that we have a great relationship going forward.
Awesome, great. The other question that we have is essentially boils down to why should we buy now? What's the reason that anyone should be interested in junior mining today?
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. And here's part of the answer. Like I said, look at that chart, and there's no real reason to think it's going lower. Okay, that's the TSXV index. Okay, so index-wise, it's sort of been in this trough for a while. Okay, the question is, will we ever get out of this trough? And I think that leads us back to this chart here. Okay, and again, you can see these troughs. Okay, they're here. But they do eventually rip back, and when they rip back, you can see these are. If you miss, I think a lot of people say, "Well, I'm going to wait for the upturn." The upturn in this is going to be 50%, 100%. So you're going to leave. You're going to be you're going to miss that. And it's like, the way to think of it is, if I was going to buy 200,000 shares of Power Nickel, okay, at 25 cents, it's 50 grand. At 50 cents, it's 100. It's basically, $100,000. So if you have 50,000 to invest, you can get 200,000 shares today. In possibly just a few months, you'll get 100,000 shares, and then possibly 25,000 shares. So your returns get savagely reduced by not getting in early. Now, I get that, hey, I don't want to be holding this thing forever, but is that the right answer? Look, if you had to hold this thing for 3 years, but you got 5 times your money, would that be a bad deal? That's what you got to ask yourself. So I would say, in my mind, this is the summer to commit. Whether to Power Nickel, to others, this is the time. I'm telling you, I'm giving the green checker flag, and you can blame it on Terry. Terry said, invest. Terry's invested with his own money because he truly believes this, because of these charts, okay? I think electrification can't wait any longer. They just cannot wait. These guys are building mines. They're building, not mines, battery plants all over North America now, $50 billion worth. I've got 6 NDAs right now with industry wanting to invest. Okay, so we're going to start to do some strategic investment. You're going to start to see that. The checkered flags are going to come, folks. So I'm really telling you, now is the time. Worst case, layer in, take a 25% position now, then move it up as you move it. That's depending on one's aggressive or conservative nature, that's okay. But don't sit on the sidelines with your cash. You're going to regret it.
When do you think that the market is going to pick up on that opportunity?
Yeah, it's interesting disconnect. I think they were starting to, when the lithium started to have a run in like February, the markets were doing quite well. And then the whole Ukrainian thing escalated, and the regional banking crisis happened. And just generally fear became the ruler dominant force. People were flying to liquidity, going to cash. So I think that's receding somewhat now. And people are being, starting to look around for things to get involved with. So I honestly think now is the bottom. I'm calling it a bottom. I'm saying the summer of 2023 is going to be the bottom, and that this thing's going to start to rip. I'm expecting it to really sort of kick off in the fall. But I believe, and the reason why is that these plants are under construction. These battery plants, they need money. So the money may not come from the market right away, but strategic money is going to come. You're watching, you're going to see it with us, and you're seeing it with others. Strategic money is going to come in because they can't wait. They need this thing to happen. And then eventually the markets, the investors are going to see, wow, we better get in on this too. And it won't take, I think everyone's watching. When these things kick up 25% or so, which they will do like in a hash, like boom, like one day you're up 25%, the next day you're up 25%. That's how this is going to happen. So that's why it's like, don't be worried about if you have to pay a penny or two. Just get your positions, man. Start to phase into this. You're going to regret, because you're going to, this message is going to say, God, he told me to do it. I'm telling you, that's how convicted I am.
Absolutely. Okay, great. The next question is just wondering, Terry, what do you see as the greatest challenge that you're facing in the next 6 months?
Well, honestly, the market depression is the greatest challenge, because ultimately, while we're okay for capital right now, we will need to raise capital going forward. Even the strategic deal we're doing today, we're going to do it, and we're going to basically blend it in over the next 6 months, because obviously we don't want to give it all away at this price today. So I think that's the biggest challenge is that people need to find the courage to look and see this chart. Like the TSXV index has, I think, probably never been lower than this, or like it's been like 1 or 2% lower, like not much. So your downside is like a penny or two, and your upside is multiples. Many multiples, like way better risk return profile than any other sector today. I just do not buy there's a better risk return profile out there than this right now. And that's the big, but I would say that's, we have to pound that macro message home to investors, not so much about our own stock. People will, find they may like lithium, they might, or they may, whatever. I don't mind about that. But please, people, do yourself a favor and invest in junior mining, because we will thank me later, because this is going to be, just a head scratcher. You're going to say, wow, I can't believe I didn't do that. That's how good this sector is right now.
Great. This next question is just about if you could review or reiterate the drill results that you're looking forward to in the near future, essentially.
So obviously the historical results were in the presentation. We did go through those, and the presentation is available on our site, and you can review them in leisure there. And the press releases are there accompanying them, and talks a bit more about them technically. So after each release, they're always posted on the site. You can get right into the detail there. And we actually post all of our drill collars and azimuths on the site, so people can actually model this deposit up themselves. They don't have to trust me. They can actually go in, and if they're skillful, they can model it. Some have. We actually put our leapfrog model out there so people can have a look at it. So there's that. But going forward, we'll start drilling in July. Probably, I think right now it's scheduled July 24th. And again, subject to the fires. Hopefully, God willing, our firefighters can put that out for us in a safe way. And we'll get back in there and start drilling July 24th, and be drilling up until Christmas and ongoing from there. And then we'd expect results from that to come out probably, I would say, October, first week in October.
So a question from Paul Harris here is, what is the timeline for Power Nickel's NI 43-101 mineral resource estimate for NISC, and how will the drill results from the 1500 drill program be incorporated?
Yes, so we'll be incorporating all of our existing drill results into the new NI 43-101, and that will be basically given guidance that we think we can get that out by the end of September. The lag would be, we're just waiting to get the updated metallurgical studies, which are on track for end of August, early September release, and then that'll be incorporated into the drilling. All that modeling is already sort of taking place now. So we think that that'll be when that happens. So, late Q3.
Perfect, thanks. Are you covering the whole project with the A&T geoids, and how many geoids does that involve?
That's the plan. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm not, handling the operational side of that. That's GeoVector is doing that in conjunction with Fleet, but they've got enough up there to do it. I think they do it almost like 1 square kilometer at a time, and then they shift them out, and then they just move them on. So priority wise, we'll be doing our initial discovery area first, and then we'll be going up and doing obviously the high grade PGM discovery next, and then all the way along that ultramafic sequence where we did the airborne EM, etc. So that will be the first 7 square kilometers that we do, and we have ultimately 45 square kilometers there, and it just takes about 3 or 4 days for it to be done, and then you got the data, and then the data is already there and it's iterative. So as we start to drill in these areas, they can get recorrelated, and we can get even more intel. So it's pretty impressive what can be done with this.
Awesome. And you're starting drilling soon. When can we expect to see results, and how many meters are you planning? Question from Laura there.
So, God willing, these fires abate by the end of July. That's the plan. End of July, starting July 24th, I think is the date. And then results would start to come, we think. It's possible it could be sooner, but I would say, to be comfortable, say October 1 or thereabouts, start to get results. And then we would continue drilling through, I don't think we'll ever stop drilling at NISC, for the next couple of years. So we certainly plan to drill through December, and, we'll take a break then, but, we'll be back at it early January.
And you mentioned it's 15,000 meters, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And what are some of the most exciting catalysts for you that are coming up this year?
Obviously, I think the 43-101 will be important, just because it'll make people see this thing's really got legs. I think the fact that we're, soon to have a strategic investor from, somebody that's outside of, I think that'll happen, soon. I think that's exciting. I'm excited to see this ambient noise tomography at work. I really think that's groundbreaking new tech that could be instrumental in finding, and discovering very big ore bodies. and especially given we've got off to such a tremendous start here with this exploration, and all the the technical results are good. So yeah, there's a lot to be excited about at NISC. It's hard to pick a single one. I'm excited to drill this first really killer target that we identify off this airborne EM and the fleet ambient noise tomography, that concentric circle, the big one that says, boom, it's here. I'm excited to drill that, because I think that tech is going to work, and I think this is going to be big.
Awesome. And another question here. This one's more broad. How has the increasing adoption of LFP battery packs, so lithium iron phosphate battery packs in electric vehicles, impacted the demand for nickel in the battery industry? And what are the potential consequences for nickel mining companies?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the technology for batteries is evolving all the time. I think batteries will be made of a complex composition of projects. So there'll be, when you don't have to travel so far for inner cities, lithium iron might be the way to go. But if you're traveling larger spaces and need better charging and better storage, then nickel's going to be the answer. I think that the plants, many of the plants that are being built as to function with nickel batteries. So I don't think there's going to be a one way to do a battery. I don't think it'll be just lithium iron. I don't think it'll be just nickel. But the forecasts are for more and more nickel use in batteries. That's from not Terry Lynch. That's from all the leading forecasts, Benchmark, Fast Markets, just spacing on the other big name in the space, Wood Mackenzie. So the nickel forecast is that they think nickel in batteries will go from 10% now to 50% by 2030. BHP just 2 weeks ago put out an announcement, saying that they expect that they're going to need 4 times the nickel by 2030. There's no chance we'll get there, by the way, even with greenlighting all the nickel projects we know. There's no. I think that the potential that nickel gets technically substituted is almost zero. It may reduce possibly demand, but demand's growing so robustly that we can't even possibly need it anyway. So trust me, that the positive headwinds for nickel, especially class 1 nickel in the battery markets, are here for a very long time, and will be more than robust to deliver some great economic pricing for power nickel. And I think the other point I would make is that when we're looking at this project, we're looking at building a mine that can do powders, anodes, and wires. Why are we looking at that? Well, because you get triple economics. If you're just going to make a nickel sulfide mine to sell it to Glencore or to Wyloo or to Vale, you're going to get LME. The real money in nickel is in the processing side of the business. Now, of course, we're not built to be a processor, but we'd have to partner with that. But those guys are at the table knocking at the door saying, hey, Mr. Power Nickel, we love your mine. We'd like to partner with you. And because there isn't that many of these, it's super rare. And so you have a seat at the table. So this is a changing paradigm shift. People haven't clued into this. The economics for nickel miners is changing radically, especially for the ones that can deliver high-end class 1 nickel, especially in North America. So it's, I'm super bullish on the nickel complex overall, class 1 nickel in general, and power nickel deposit in particular.
Awesome. And here's another question. When do you expect the first batch of results for the A&T to come in?
The first batch of results for?
For the A&T.
Yeah, we actually, they're at the site right now ready to deploy, and then we would get results in 10 days. But the fires have got us in camp right now. So we'll have to see. Sometime in July for sure is our guess.
Perfect. And do you have an estimate of when Power Nickel can be in production?
That would be we'll give you an educated guess. I would say if you flat out, beat all land speed records and had, the very best cooperation and did things in tandem, like do the feasibility study now, which is, unusual, but let's say we do that and you do that in conjunction with the environmental assessments and all that stuff. The earliest possible would be, I would say, end of 28. So I would say from 28 to 30 is sort of the window of where this thing could be done if moving quickly. You can always drag it out, but generally speaking, we're in an environment where they are pro-permitting, favorable towards mines. Community interest to support the mine is there. Government support to support critical minerals development is there. So one could expect this thing to happen sooner than ordinarily. Most mines take many years to develop, but I think there's a willingness on government's part to obviously not miss any steps, but just to cut some of the bureaucracy and streamline this. So, and we're trying to do the same thing on the development side by, looking, we think this is going to be mine. We have every confidence of that. So we're not just going to go, hey, let's do a PEA, do a PFS. No, that's a slow and sleepy way and super expensive way to do things. There are other ways to do things. You could go to a feasibility study now if you believe in it and if your partners do. So that will expedite. That'll take a couple of years off the planning process right there. So there's ways to expedite, but that would be, in my mind, the window, late 28 to early 30.
Perfect, thanks. So I think that's all the questions and time that we have for today. So thanks, Terry, for taking us through the presentation and the Q&A session. I also want to thank everyone who submitted questions. We had a lot of them today. If you didn't get a chance to get your questions answered, or if you just thought of one now, you can find today's presentation in the handouts tab. And also you'll be able to watch the replay and reach out to Terry afterwards through that survey that I sent in the chat earlier. So please feel free. And Terry, I'm sure you're happy to field any more questions as well. And you can always find more information on Power Nickel on their website, powernickel.com. So now I'll hand it back to Terry for the final word.
Yeah, no, I think, a great, set of questions. Really appreciate the engagement with the potential investors or investors out there. It's a phenomenal time to be looking at junior mining. That chart I showed you, we're bottomed out now. There's every reason to believe, if you believe that this EV thing is not some sort of flash in the pan, that it's here to stay. Now is the time to invest in junior mining, and now is the time to invest in Power Nickel. So without further ado, have a great day and hope you enjoy your weekend. Cheers.